What's up guys, welcome to the Game Week 10 transfer plans guys. We've got a lot of fires to put out in this team, so let's get right into it. Obviously you've got to like and subscribe first because we want to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the season. Let's see if we can do it. Anyway, let's get right into the video. So guys, first of all, let's look at the results for Game Week 9. Now, on Saturday, right, my green arrow was so huge. I was in the top 200k, I was so happy. Okay, now, by the end of the game week, after Salah and Palmer both played and both got 10 points and Saka got 9 points or whatever, I'm sort of in the mud. I mean, I still got a green arrow, but even then I was quite lucky with an 8 Norrie goal. You could say the same because, you know, Palmer was the biggest threat to my team and he scored from 0.05 expected goals. So I guess I was lucky in some aspects, but unlucky in other aspects as well. So yeah, overall, I guess I'm happy with this game week. The only reason I wanted a bigger green arrow is because the next game week is very tough. Bruno was really unlucky to not get me any returns. Watkins and Rodgers and all of the Aston Villa team had a stinker home to Bournemouth, which I thought could have been a return for both of them, but you know, they just didn't want to play well. Chris Wood is obviously a fucking hero. He is a legend and he always will be. But you know, the main downfall of this team does fall on the shoulders of Erling Haaland. He's averaged what, 3 points in the last 4 games, 3 points per game. It's not good. He's not worth 15.4 mil at the moment. Everybody that's decided to stick with Salah and Palmer seems to be doing better at the moment. But yeah, overall, green arrow, bit of luck, cannot complain too much. So yeah, guys, let's look at the current team. Like I said, it's not an easy game week. There's tough fixtures here. A lot of these players do have an easy game week next week. And, you know, sometimes you just have these hard weeks, but some just need to go. So looking at Chris Wood first, he's currently yellow flagged. He said in the post-match press conference he was fine. So he is going to start next game week unless, you know, for some random rotation reasons he doesn't. Point is, the injury is not really existent for him. With Gabriel, he is expected to miss, you know, at least 1 to 3 weeks, which means he's probably not going to be playing in my team until our wildcard in game week 12, so he is probably the highest priority sell. But until we get confirmation on that, I also need to consider which Aston Villa player to sell, because like I said, I'm going to wildcard in 2 game weeks. I've got game week 10 and 11, and Aston Villa, they play away to Tottenham and away to Liverpool. 2 tough games, which I don't really want to own Aston Villa players for. I've got 1 free transfer and 3.7 million in the bank. So what do? Let's assume in this scenario, Gabriel's fine and I'm deciding between which Aston Villa player to sell. Now, who do I get the most value from selling and who is actually worth holding? I mean, Rodgers is probably not going to get any returns away to Tottenham and away to Liverpool, being completely honest, right? But at 5.4 mil, he's not really got any good switches to go to. I mean, that's if you're someone with no money in the bank. I've got 3.7 million in the bank and I could switch to someone like Brennan Johnson. Pretty much he's the only option. There's not many good midfielders in this game at this price point, guys. I mean, I could spend all the way up to like 8 mil, but none of them are actually that good. And Brennan Johnson, I've worked out in my head, is already the best option to go for if I do decide to sell Morgan Rodgers. And with selling Watkins, I could bring in a better player. Like I could bring in Cunha, who I'm a huge fan of, playing home to Palace and home to Southampton. But Watkins is Aston Villa's main man, and at the end of the day, if anyone is going to score against Tottenham and against Liverpool, it probably is Ollie Watkins, and I think he's one of those players that I can kind of deal with playing through the hard games because there is always a chance of him scoring a goal. So if any of you guys are in the same boat as me and you want to sell your Aston Villa players, if you have money in the bank to go from Rodgers to maybe like Kulusevski or Johnson, that's good, that's fine, go for it. Otherwise, I don't want to say they're both worth holding, but because they're not. Watkins definitely is. And if you can find a good replacement for Morgan Rodgers at his price point, go for it. I mean, if push really comes to shove and Rodgers is the only player you want to sell, you're going to have to look to Emil Smith-Rowe or Alex Iwobi. 2 okay assets. I mean, they're not as good as Morgan Rodgers in general, but for these next few hard games for Aston Villa, in the next 4, they play away to Chelsea, away to Liverpool, and away to Tottenham. Bringing in someone like Smith-Rowe or Iwobi could be worth the money. Maybe even Dwight McNeil if you can afford it, because his fixtures ain't too bad. Anyway guys, the main focus of this video is the Gabriel replacements. Now, if you saw my team, you could already tell I've got 8 Norrie in the squad. Now, 8 Norrie is probably the best Gabriel replacement, guys. He has got the best fixture run I've seen in a long while. You know, Wolves especially, really good. Like the next 2 games, especially for me, home to Crystal Palace and home to Southampton. And after that, many more good games. A lot of clean sheet potential and a lot of potential for goal involvements. But, you know, I've already got him. We're not going to talk about him much in this video, but I am going to talk about another Wolves defender who's basically just a worse version of Ryan Aït-Nouri because he's got less expected goal involvements. Now, guys, transfer option 1. Do I go with Semedo? Do I hope they keep a clean sheet home to Palace and home to Southampton? with, probably like, if I'm being honest, guys, Semedo's not going to get a goal involvement. I'm bringing him in purely for the clean sheet potential. Is that someone I go for? It could be worth it. And I think if many of you want to save money and you can't afford anyone more expensive than Gabriel, doubling up on the Wolves defence isn't the worst of ideas because you can spend that money in your attack. And obviously, if you don't have a Wolves defender, Ryan Aït-Nouri, fantastic choice. But for a guy like me, with 3.7 million in the bank, I'm only needing to consider the next 2 game weeks. I might be wanting to pick Trent, okay? Trent is also a really good long-term option for you guys, by the way, if you want to get someone long-term to replace Gabriel and you have the money. He has the 4th most expected assists in the entire game, behind Saka, McNeil, and Maddison. But they've all got like, what, 3 assists, 4 assists, 7 assists between them. I think Saka's got 7, 6 or 7. Dwight McNeil's got 3, Maddison's got 4. Trent, with pretty much the same amount of expected assists, has only got 1 assist. So Trent's been really unlucky to not get these expected assists. I'm going to be honest, guys. But one thing about Trent is, on top of these expected assists, the expected clean sheets are also very high. The defensive data for Liverpool is the best in the league. Fair enough, they've had some easy games, but still, they're very solid. And if you could pick up a clean sheet from Trent or an assist from Trent, possibly both, it's quite tempting, especially because the next 2 games he plays are home games. Home to Brighton is by far from a hard game, and even playing home to Aston Villa isn't the worst. I don't expect that to be an insanely high scoring game. So yeah, if we're talking about the best Gabriel replacement, definitely Trent if you can afford it. But if you want to or need to go cheaper, you probably want to look to, Ryan Aït-Nouri or Semedo if you already have him. You could consider Gabriel maybe, but the problem is the City fixtures, they're not exactly getting any easier. They've got a few hard ones in a row. On top of that, Man City don't usually keep clean sheets, and I know Gabriel has scored 2 goals this season, but that's from 0.5 expected goals, so it's not a trend I expect to continue. If I was one of you guys, I'd back Trent with the insanely high expected assists and the clean sheet potential, or go cheaper for that Wolves defence and take advantage of that huge, good fixture run which lasts about 8 or 9 game weeks. Let's dive a little deeper into Trent here, guys. We're looking at Trent stats per 90 across the entire season. As you can see, once again, it shows here, like 0.4 expected assists per 90. For a defender, that's really high, but he's only got 0.1 at the moment, so he's getting quite unlucky. And the expected clean sheets, like I said, they're also the best in the league. On top of that, Trent is the 3rd biggest threat to my team behind Salah and Palmer, so it would be nice to eliminate some risk from the next 2 game weeks as well, because Liverpool playing home to Brighton when they have Salah and Trent playing and they're going to hurt my rank, it's quite scary. So Trent could be the player I need to help me just weather the storm that is game week 10, and I could hopefully just about get through on a small red, maybe even a green if Trent does really well. But yeah, let's look at the moral of the story, the moral of this video. If you want to sell an Aston Villa player, prioritise selling Rodgers. If you can, get Brennan Johnson. If you can't, get Smith Rowe or Alex Iwobi. If you're on Watkins and you want to sell Watkins, I don't think you should personally. But if you do, you could look at Cunha or Solanke. Probably Cunha, guys, because his fixture run is great. He's good long term and he's good short term. If you're in the same boat as me and you need to sell Gabriel, if you ain't got the money for Trent, go to Ryan Aït-Nouri. If you do have the money for Trent, go from Gabriel to Trent. If you don't have the money for Trent and you already have Ryan Aït-Nouri, I would suggest Semedo. But if you have a defender on your bench which can pick you up some nice point fodder, just like a 4 mil defender, do that. It's probably better to prioritise selling players in your attack. The problem with me is I have no playing defenders, guys. I have Gabriel and I have Ryan Aït-Nouri and no one else that can physically play. So yeah, I don't want to go into the next game week with 10 men. Anyway, guys, if you did make it this far, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of Trent as a transfer idea. Do you think it's a wise move? And as always, if you made it this far, you are greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you once again, and I will see you all in the next video.